Okay, I think I'm live. It says I'm live. Hello, hello, good people. Those watching now, those watching later. Hi. So a couple of people in the chat here. Sanizer's here. Hey, Sanizer. And Baroque is here. Hi, Baroque. And we started a bit early. Cool. Okay. This is probably the last live stream before the new year. And my apologies. I wanted to go live on time and not take a few minutes now to translate something. So I will be doing it on the fly. And as such, it will be different than the others so far. I find such value in Rav Kook's teachings and his words, particularly in Orot HaTshuvah. And so I will read, oh, whoops, hang on, different tab. Okay. So I'm going to sort of wing it, right, with this one. I'm very happy that it's the end of this year. I truly, honestly hope next year will be better on so many levels. So I've been, during this time of Elul, of the 6th month or the 12th month, depending how you count it, I've been reading Orot HaTshuvah. I've been broadcasting about it here. And what I have been ranting and raving about here, it's such a drop in the ocean of what Orot HaTshuvah is. Like Rav Kook himself said, that he worked on it a great deal, and people, those who look at it properly, will be able to see light on every word, on every letter. And he said at the end of Yom Kippurim, a year or two before he died, he said as Yom Kippurim left, the holiday of atonement, he said Orot HaTshuvah needs to be studied without limit, or without limitation. So I'm going to read, oh, which one is it? What is it? Is it, which chapter? Hang on. Chapter 12, section 10, Yud. Okay, by the way, is the audio good? I'm not sure if the audio and the video are good. I'm hoping they are. Let's continue. Wait, let's see. Yeah, I'm assuming that you would tell me by now if it wasn't. It's been a few minutes, and a few people are here. Hello, a few people. Hi there. So wait, it's Sanizer and perhaps Baroque, and who else? Speak up. 10 out of 10. Perfect. Thank you, Sanizer, for the feedback. I appreciate it. Okay. Says Rav Kook, and again, I'm paraphrasing. I didn't have time to translate and edit or give my... So I'm just going to read it in Hebrew and to translate on the fly, so to speak. Oh. Sweet dreams, my dear. Okay. So, says Rav Kook in Orot HaTshuvah. He says, Tshuva, right, returning, atonement, is the rejuvenation of life. It's the renewal of life. It is impossible for Tshuva to not change the very value of the life you're living when they go on. And in any event, he says, it changes life for the better, even if it is done on one's final day. And he quotes Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, the King Solomon, where he says towards the end of the scroll of Ecclesiastes of Kohelet, he says, remember your creator. Because there will come days, right, when you will say, I desire not these years, times of great hardship and tragedy. And he says that, the sun will go down, the light will dim, and the stars and the moon. In other words, he's saying there will be tough times ahead, difficult times that you won't want to go through. Fortify yourself now. Return to yourself. Atone. Be who you are meant to be. So later, when those bad times come, and when the sun starts to set on your life, you won't be filled with regret and with a disinterest in the life that you're living and in the years that you have to follow or the days to come. And you won't say, I do not desire them. Your life will be imbued with so much meaning and have so much value due to the essence of tshuva. And he says that the rest of the it's not platitudes, the rest of, let's say, the comforting sayings, and the rest of the, in other words, he's quoting Kohelet here, and he says there will be worse times, there will be bad times, there will be difficult and challenging times, and you want to lead a life that's good, and so start doing it now. And he says the rest of the words of comfort and solace, they are a kind of spice that fortifies your tshuva, right? Once you have made that agreement with yourself that you're gonna keep going, despite all your frailties and faults and inadequacies, you're going to keep going in that way of tshuva. You will do your best. You will make an effort, a conscious effort to return to yourself each and every day, right? And be on the lookout and be humble and be aware, even as you are transgressing, be aware that it is against, let's say, the Most High God that you are transgressing. And as such, that will already give you, along with humility, that path back, right, to being that image of God that you are. So he says that there's a lot of utility in words of comfort and solace when a person is feeling like they are down, right, and they want to make tshuva, but they have such a huge pile of transgressions and wrongdoings. But tshuva, in essence, is supposed to cause you to revalue your life. You yourself are imbuing it, are placing value and meaning in it when you are reaching for that ideal of tshuva, of being that image of God, right? Your unique expression, right? Your uniqueness in the image of God. And he says, on the other hand, so on the one hand, you need, right, those words of comfort and solace that one comforts his soul, right, and his bruised heart, and walking this path of tshuva, which is difficult. He says that there's great utility and comfort and solace to oneself, but you shouldn't become so immersed in comfort and solace that you don't actually try physically, practically to implement tshuva in your life. Don't let it stay here. Bring it down into creation. He says that the one who is immersed in the solace and the comforting words until he is lax in getting his life in order, he says that is a person who is deeply drowning in sin, completely missing the mark, and yet thinking that he has been saved. He says that a person who is deep in sin and who still thinks that he has been saved and that he's in a good place, a person who is not fully humble, fully aware, let's say, of his situation. But, oh, okay. But the cable is down here.
That's not here.
Okay. So he says this type of idea that says that yes, on the one hand, you can be immersed in sin, and on the other hand, you can say that you're completely saved and free of it. Right? I'm already saved. It's like, no, be aware of what you're doing. Be aware of who you are. Be aware of what it is that where you've been and where you're going to. And he says that that kind of idea of holding those two things together and thinking that that's okay, like for the long term, that he says is the foreign worship, the avodah zarah havatranit, of giving up. A person who says, and he quotes the, let's put it this way. He says that the method which leaves truth and what would it be? And justice, and goes only after its own heart, right? The heart is fragile. The heart can be broken. The heart can be manipulated. The heart is a fragile thing, metaphorically and physically. He brings the example of the non-kosher animal, and I've mentioned this, which is kosher on the outside with the hoof, right, and the slit, but it's not kosher on the inside. It doesn't chew its cud, right? It doesn't regurgitate and swallow and regurgitate. And so on the outside it appears kosher, but on the inside it is not kosher, which makes it not a kosher animal for consumption by people who keep kashrut. And so even though these words of comfort and solace are always showing the outside and saying, look, we're pure, it's coming from a good place, you need to scrutinize that to make sure that you're not simply shirking your responsibility, to make sure that you're not just leaving your burden behind. You can carry that burden, be aware of the burden, acknowledge that it's a burden, and keep on walking. Don't take it off your shoulders. And this is the type of thing which purports to be truth or purity, but in fact is the opposite. And you could say, okay, so how am I supposed to know? It's like you always need to be asking yourself. You always need to be aware of yourself. Keep that dialogue between you and the Most High open. Keep the communication channels open all the time. That way, I think, is the best way of not drowning in sin and thinking that you're free of it. And he says that the fruit, right, the actual doings and dealings of those who give up on themselves and who make an ideal out of that, right? They take something which is kind of to their detriment and they think that it's to their benefit. He says that it has no leg to stand on, not long term anyway. In the short term, perhaps, because you need to focus on the future with tshuva. You need to know what you're doing next with tshuva. It's important that you don't immediately want to fix the entire past because you're just one man or woman. He says that this false doctrine or methodology, method that is, that says even when you're immersed in sin, you're fine, and this is the way to go. And it can bring all kinds of verses and examples, again, words of comfort and solace to prove that point that you are, that argument that you are making within yourself. And Rav Kook says, beware of that danger. Tshuva is supposed to change your life. Tshuva is supposed to be something that always orients you a little bit more towards the good. And you need to be aware of the parts that are still lacking and wanting and insufficient, always, always. And it doesn't mean look for things where they aren't and make things up and to each his own. But in this case, he says that the truthfulness that is to this method, the fact that comfort and solace do have their place, there is truth to that. That truth is something which this false doctrine takes unto itself and shows it, saying, look, it's a good thing. What I'm doing is a good thing. And yet it's a truth that's like stolen and bastardized, perverted, bent. And I'm not sure how to put it. But he says that it's like it eats, he says. It's like a creature that eats that truth, but it doesn't sit well. And eventually it will vomit it out and be bereft of it. In other words, it can be something good in the short term, perhaps, but not as an ideology, as a way of life. You need to always be aware of the things you're doing, good and bad. Give yourself credit where it's due. Kick your ass sometimes when you feel you need to do it. Don't do it to such a degree where you fall into a pit of sadness and spiral into self-loathing. That is not the way of tshuva. The way of tshuva is a way of joyfulness, of love. And yes, there's fear of God and awe of God, and both have their time, their place, their utility, and good merits. But you need to be aware in order to know when to implement those and how to do it in such a way that won't harm you in the long term. And he says that it's, hold on. Okay. And he says that aspect of truth that this false notion or idea holds, it will become free of it. And itself, that portion of truthfulness that was inside that false doctrine, that will shine that much brighter and will be able to spread out, right? Israel to many nations, he says. And, hold on. Okay, a few verses there. That's more or less, I'm inclined to say less. Sometimes less is more, but that's what that's my on the fly chapter 10, is it? No, it's chapter 10, section 10. Am I right? No, it's 12, chapter 12, section 10. Orot HaTshuvah, Rav Kook. Tshuva is the renewal of life. Tshuva is the rejuvenation of life. I like that. You know what? I've been over here. I hope. Well, I'm on a different laptop today. Okay. Let's go to the chat. Hello, people. So let's go. I hope that this is from the beginning. Sanizer wrote something an hour and a half ago or so. Okay, let's see. Said Sanizer, a previous claim I've made many times, evil doesn't exist. Aristotle said evil destroys even itself. And since evil is self-destructive, it merely misunderstands that simple fact. What do you mean, evil as some sort of personification of evil in people? The concept of evil, the notion of evil, a spiritual root of evil? What do you mean where you say evil doesn't exist And Aristotle says, so basically what Aristotle says according to you is something which backs up your claim. Am I right? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. There's an ellipsis there. It merely understands that simple fact, and misunderstanding that fact proves evil is only a misunderstanding, that it does what it must to survive. Okay, if I understand you correctly, you're saying that evil is self-destructive, and it is supposed to destroy itself. And so misunderstanding that, the fact that you're saying that evil misunderstands something, and that proves that evil is a misunderstanding. Is that a circular, could it be a circular thing with a circular argument? Could it be? I'm not sure if it is, but let's treat that again. Evil doesn't exist, you say, it's just misunderstanding. You bring Aristotle, who says that evil destroys even itself, which, again, according to tradition, that's supposed to happen as well. Evil will be eradicated, death will be taken away, we partake of the fruit of tree of life, and reality is never the same after that. Existence, consciousness, never the same.
The world is 832.
I'm sorry?
That's
I didn't say anything about that, but okay. Yes, I didn't think it was the fattest. Since evil is self-destructive, you say, it merely misunderstands that simple fact. And misunderstanding that fact proves evil is only a misunderstanding. Okay, maybe you clarify it going down. I'm not fully grasping it, but let's see. It's also how the universe maintains balance in sentience. Minden Raspberry. Understanding being the ultimate end of all misunderstanding. So it's something that is self-destructive, but also in time self-correcting. Am I understanding you correctly? And there is an echo of that right in the Midrash. There's an echo of that in the story of creation and of how it perhaps is supposed to pan out. The way you phrased it was a bit of a misunderstanding on my part, and maybe I didn't fully get it. Maybe, but we'll see. You know what? I see that you and Baruch had a back and forth there. Let's skip ahead for now just a moment. Yossi is here. Hi, Yossi, and Arzu is here. Hello, Arzu. Anyone else here? Okay. So, I mean, you had a dialogue there. I'm just gonna keep going. Oh, I see. And you're gonna. Okay, wait. Hold on a second. I just saw my name here. Especially considering HN's vastly different route to similar understandings, to me it seems doubtful. Oh, okay. So that's going back to what you were saying. I'm assuming you're in a disagreement. Okay, let's see. I agree there too. Okay, so this is already from 905 and in Orot HaTshuvah. Said Sneezer, I agree there too. I think the vast majority of humanity only enlightened on their deathbed. The majority. Could be. Could be. But what do you consider enlightened, right? You say they are enlightened only on their deathbed, but what do you consider to be enlightenment? Enlightenment as you see it, is it achieving that unconditional love? Is it that understanding that unconditional love is what is all, right? The divinity, that whole thing that you maintain? Or am I misunderstanding you now? But as Jesus teaches, said Sneezer, with the parable of the vineyard, those who work but an hour still get the day's wage. Say our sages. Some people attain their lot, their after death, or in the the world to come, the coming world. Some people attain it in a lifetime. Some people attain it in an hour. I guess that is those people lived around the same time, the time of the Second Temple. Saved isn't a future place. It's a current state to be free from hating others. Right, so you consider that idea of hate and evil and misunderstanding to be all sort of bundled and packaged together. And it is in some way, right? I suppose it's a future state if you haven't, LOL. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, that's... Right, if you haven't. Yes, exactly. It's something where if you haven't made tshuva yet, then it's a future thing. And in things where you have made tshuva, it's a question of sustaining it and of elevating yourself and, again, to keep on going. The that idea of hate and sin that Rav Kook makes, the connection between tshuva and love, which I didn't get to read, maybe at a different time. I'll read it. And I've mentioned this as well recently, that he says that when a person sins, there's a certain hate which comes to dwell within him. And when he does tshuva, when he returns, when he atones, then love shines there once again. Yossi says, let the dead bury the dead, Sneezer. Is this about something that was said earlier? I'm not understanding the connection. I wish others had been there to soften my death. Drama queen. Just explaining the change I want to see. Okay, so yeah, I hear you. He's not being a drama queen. He's saying what he's expressing his desire. A very important distinction. Many fall into that pit of despair. Yes, the pit of despair. Like the Princess Bride one. In the pit of despair, what happens? Your life is taken away from you. Just like in the Princess Bride. It's so important not to fall into that pit of sadness and despair and self-loathing. It's so immensely important. That's time you're not getting back. That's time hating yourself, which sometimes turns into hating others because it can consume you. It's not a good place. And it's even a worse place when the root of it is tshuva. The root of it is starting from a positive place, let's say, which is, oh my God, I have still so much more to do. And yes, it can bring humility and awareness, and to just save yourself from that pit of despair. And if you're sad, be sad for just the right amount of time. If you're heartbroken, be heartbroken for just the right amount of time. And then make the efforts in joy and in, what would be the word? In a sense of purpose, with meaning, right? With enthusiasm, if you can mount it, the things that you can do, the mitzvahs, the good deeds that you can grab and snatch. Do it. Do it. Do it consciously. No, just dominating the chat with strange fire. And I see you've got rid of everyone else. But what? You see that you're responding to him? Yes, I suppose. Dominating by replying to them each? Oh, wait, Yossi, maybe I didn't see. I'm sorry. Did I miss something earlier? It could be that I missed something. I don't see. Maybe YouTube censored it. I do not see a message from you, Yossi. I don't see a message from you before that. Those which I read. So maybe it was censored because I have no idea. I didn't see it. Rephrase it and write it again. It is a bit of a circular argument. Evil is one perspective of what is actually just misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. Is it? You don't mean it, but I have a feeling that maybe when you tell that to people, people may view that as really simplistic, if that's the simplistic. Yes, I think that if that's the way to phrase it. Though I understand from chatting with you this past 100 odd days, I understand that you mean a lot more than simply not getting it, and in some ways it's exactly that. But I think that could there be a better way of phrasing it? I don't know. No, you know what? You should phrase it the way you phrase it. That's the way you phrase it. Far be it from me to tell you to change it. I only say that because it was years ago, over a decade ago, I said something along those lines, different, but along those lines, something that could appear, and in fact did appear to someone else, as really simplistic and, in the context of the conversation, the dialogue, really not inappropriate, but it's like, come on. Years later, I met that person at a wedding, the person who took not offense, but he didn't understand what I said properly because of how I phrased it, I suppose, and because of I knew the thought behind it, but they didn't. I didn't communicate what I wanted to properly. Years later, I saw him at a wedding of a mutual friend, And I brought that up, that Facebook post where that happened over a decade ago, and I brought it up. So it happened over a decade ago. I met him right before I moved to the Netherlands, so 6 years ago. So it happened, I'd say 12 years ago or so. And then 6 years ago, I met him at a wedding, and I brought up that Facebook post, which at the time was 6 years old. And I told him, I think about that because I was wrong in phrasing it that way, not because it is wrong, but in the context of the conversation, the communication, I didn't do it properly. I hope you forgive me. And he did immediately. And he also said, oh, this guy, 6 years after the fact. It stuck with me. It did. It stuck with me. But again, I'm not telling you how to communicate. So wait. Arzu said hello, Arzu. Hello to Jerusalem, indeed. So wait, Yossi, I'm not sure if you were talking to me or talking to someone, to Sneezer. I'm not sure. I'm sorry if I did miss something. It's because it was perhaps censored by YouTube. I didn't read a message, or I don't know. To be fully enlightened, said Sneezer, would be to fully embody unconditional love. Yes, but it's also a process before completion. Is there completion? Because that's a condition. Completion means limit. Limit means, well, something that is a type of condition where there's a limit here and nothing beyond that point. So it's very much, let's say it's a very Hasidic Kabbalistic thought of Leit Atah Upanui Mineh, right? Of the infinite dwelling within the finite. And so to fully embody unconditional love, and you're talking of completion, saying it's a process which would indicate, right, let's say beginning, middle, and end, but it's unconditional. So I hear what you're saying. It's a process before completion. Yes, that spirit that God pours upon all flesh, that says in the book of Yoel, it, I think, will be something very close to simple human unity and love. And we will be able to overcome our misunderstandings through the process, right? It's a process. And through love that is conditional, break that ceiling and burst into unconditional love as much as a finite being can embody such a thing. I still hate mosquitoes. Right on. I am not a fan either. I kill them if they come here. My prayers are with Moshe, Jesus, and Muhammad. Oh, my prayers. What do you mean by your prayers are with them? I'm curious. Sneezer says, has everyone heard the Pope just declared all religions are paths to the same God? World peace is well underway. No, I hadn't. Good for him. I mean, I'm not a Catholic, obviously. Hey, Sneezer. Yes, Sneezer, I'm not a Catholic, obviously, but are all religions paths to the same God? And not eventually. I'm saying, are they? Are they? I suppose they are in the very same way that all of the Sfirot lead back to Keter or down to Malchut, where it's one. And that sort of thing, yes, there's it fractionates and it breaks apart and then it comes back together. So in that sense, yeah, I guess it is. I hope you're okay, HN, but the way that these religions are played out in the world by humans, there are some things there that it's like even if you push me into a corner and say, yes, but everything is from God, God created everything, it's like, yes, but humans have free will. And oh God, I can't see how that's a path to God. I can't. But in essence, yes, right? Religion is that organized spirituality with rules and regulations and hierarchies, clergy, perhaps, right? Doctrine, principles, pillars of faith and conduct. That can definitely be a path to the same God. If you can't explain things simplistically, you don't understand them. Yes, but I didn't say simply. I said simplistically, right? And if I'm not mistaken, it's not stating it simply. I agree. If you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it. That I got. Simplistic in the sense that it's insufficient. It's not enough to truly convey what it is that you're saying, which could mean that that the communique might be corrupt. right? In the ears of the listener, in the ears of the receiver, it could be. Okay, I might be wrong. I also cannot bring myself to appreciate mosquitoes, says Ariel. Yeah, mosquitoes. Ah, bloodsuckers. I remember there was in National Geographic, one of their explorers. He was, I think, in the Amazon rainforest, and he said that there is a species there of, is it blue? Some sort of pretty color of mosquito. And he lets them, you can see, right? You can see that he's holding his arm out and he is letting them land on him and suck on his blood so their line will continue. Ooh, pardon me.
Was Bob Marley the one who was allowed to hip hop?
No, Bob Marley was reggae primarily, maybe some ska and dance hall elements, but not hip hop, no. Hilbert? 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 Am I missing something? Oh, quote you said was originally said from David Hilbert. So wait, whose quote? Which one? My quote? Somebody else's quote? Okay. No, you're not Catholic, obviously. I know that. It was like weeks ago, says Sneezer to yes, the current Pope, whatever his name is, on a trip to Taiwan. It's obvious you are very confused. I meant about simplistic one. Okay. So people in the chat. I've read so many wise words, I rarely remember the source, said Sneezer. I hear you. He says many will disagree, but rarely have they explored the sources of other religions instead of just members. Okay, but you know what? Hey, Yossi, bye. You're leaving? See ya. Hope you come back sometime. That was... Wait, what? Okay. Oh, the line about if you couldn't explain it simply. I understand. Let's put it this way. At what point do the members or followers of a religion, at what point do they no longer represent said religion? Especially if they claim, and when they claim to definitely represent the religion. At what point? When does it break down? So wait, Yossi left? He didn't leave? Yossi, if you're here, stay on board if you want. If not, see you later. Shana Tova. Right, okay, wait, back to the members. Exploring the sources of other religions as opposed to just members, and yet the members are saying that we are carrying out this religion, and all right, different sects, different groups, denominations. At what point do you right? It's the, what is it called? It's the not a real Irishman fallacy. You know that one? You know the Irishman, the not a real Irishman fallacy? I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it's something along the lines of the line is no real Scotsman, not Irish, Scotsman, not a real Scotsman, right? Which is all Scotsmen do something with their haggis. And then you say, my uncle is a Scot, and he doesn't do that with his haggis. And the reply is, the real Scotsman does. Wait, let me see if I got that properly. I'm going to Google it quickly. Right, not a real Scotsman. Did I get that right? Not a real Scotsman. Yes, no true Scotsman. And the line is, right, no Scotsman puts sugar on his porridge. But my Uncle Angus is a Scotsman and he puts sugar on his porridge. But no true Scotsman puts sugar on his porridge. So it's called the no true Scotsman, or the appeal to purity. It's an informal fallacy in which one attempts to protect an a posteriori claim, one not verifiable, from a falsifying counterexample by modifying the initial claim. So over here, it's, Jews don't act like that. Well, my uncle is is an ultra Orthodox Jew, and he acts like that. No, no true Jew acts like that. It's like, okay, is that a fallacy? Is there truth to it? At what point do the members, right? At what point does the fruit bespeak the root? In other words, you have a root of an apple tree in the ground, it grows into a beautiful, gorgeous apple, and it brings fruit. And those fruit, some of them may be premium, pristine, lovely, A plus, and some of them might be rotten. Some of them might attract insects which take them over. Some of them may not be picked and they just wither and fall down, completely decayed. I don't know what. And yet they come from a root that is pure and that is capable and able and in fact does produce wonderful fruit, right? Bad apples, right? It's just a few bad apples. You know the line. At what point do the bad apples truly bespeak the root? When, under what circumstances, I don't know. I don't know. But to say that all religions lead back to the same God, I could go with eventually I get it. I would be right pressed into a corner. I would say, yes, since God is the creator, then it thus goes that even though if we have free will, God is the creator, both of things coincide, and yet everything comes from the divine right revelation. And as such, all roads lead back to Rome, as it were. And religions eventually, ultimately, even mistakenly, can blindly lead back to God. I'm screwing this up. I don't even know if I believe that as it's coming out of my mouth, but I'm inclined to think of it because of what I said, religion being what it is, right? Rules, regulations, doctrine, that whole thing. It has an element which, if not corrupted, can definitely set you on a path to enlightenment and humility and all good traits, and that will lead you to manifesting yourself in the best possible way, putting your best foot forward to yourself and the world, being a blessing to yourself, those around you, and that is another way to God, to the closeness of the Most High. And in that sense, yes. On the other hand, no, definitely not all religious people who claim to act out their religion in purity, definitely not all of them are ones that represent the religion that they are part of, and some are. I wouldn't know. I think I would have to take it on a case by case basis. I don't know. Let's continue. Let's continue. Members never represent the religion, and all Jews should be very thankful of it. All Jews? Why not everyone? So neither continues and says, a religion is merely like a dictionary with 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 which other speakers can relate, right? So a shared system of values, a shared faith. Okay, I hear what you're saying, but right. So precisely, it's a dictionary. All the words are in the dictionary, even some slang, and yet you decide what it is that comes out of your mouth. Unless you've got, some tics or Tourette's or I don't know what, but that's beside the point. You have the entire dictionary at your disposal, and you choose what, to let fly out of your mouth. And if you go around and you gossip and you curse other people and you act like a jerk, you can't point back and say, "Oh, but those words are in the dictionary." It's like, yeah, those words are in the dictionary, but you choose how to arrange those words, who to say them to, and when, and under what circumstances. So at some point from the dictionary to the ears of those who heard your words, there's also you. And in that sense, even though the dictionary is the source, it doesn't represent it doesn't represent it. I understand what you're saying with that analogy of the dictionary, where it's used as a way to relate to one another, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the members are. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Bloodnose says, Bloodnose is here wishing you all God's blessings in your life. Amen, amen. Emit. Thank you. I appreciate that blessing. And to you. And to you. And to us all. May we be a blessing. May we know how to receive blessings and give thanks and be gracious. Be gracious. I have so much. I'm so blessed. I have a cup of tea. Let's continue here. Yes says, religion, by the way, if anyone wants to join camera or mic, feel free. Religions can't change at one night. They get disassembled piece by piece on purpose. Disassembled or peeled, right? Like the analogy of the fruit, where the peel is there to keep it safe and make sure it ripens properly. But once the peel has served its purpose, it's time to peel off the husk, the shell, the barrier, consume the fruit. Even though, once again, the peels have utility, and but not the same as the fruit. Religions can't change at one night. That much is true, at least from history. Sneezer says, while I'm sure at least sometimes it's on purpose, others it's just by misunderstanding the dictionary. Okay. Yes says, for example, there wasn't always the no fallacy axiom for the Catholic head. Who, when, and why needed it? Right, so the Pope is infallible, correct, in the eyes of Catholics, and you're saying that it wasn't always there, that axiom, and it was necessary, so they did it. I know from George Carlin's 1970s comedy, when he talks about Catholicism, and he talks about the fact that eating meat on a Friday was a mortal sin, a grievous sin, if not a mortal sin. And that at some point they decided, no, it's okay to eat meat on Friday. Okay, cool. But he was talking about how sometimes before it was made canon, if you will, before that prohibition was taken away, there was the idea of giving it as a special treat or a prize to communities who did good things. You know, you can eat meat on Friday. So I mean, obviously it was a comedy bit. I don't know how much of it is actually true, but you know, I've heard that anyway. So the idea of the Pope being infallible, and they needed it, right? Things change in the Christian doctrine and religious doctrine by and large.
On YouTube.
Yes, it's StreamYard. See this?
You do not stream on YouTube?
This is on YouTube. I'm live on YouTube right now. These are comments on YouTube.
No, sir.
This is StreamYard. Sneezer says, an Eskimo may go to great lengths to prove elephants cannot exist. Yes, an axiom I highly disagree with, said Sneezer, but it may be coming to fruition. What do you mean it may be coming to fruition? The no fallacy axiom is playing itself out completely? I'm not. Where do you see that? I'm curious. Yes says it depends on how self-aware said dogma is. Yeah, I agree. Correct. 100%. Ismo, the comedian, has a great bit on 100%. Okay. Ella, hi Ella, good to see you. Religion is just tool, just like any tool. How you use it matters. Agreed. I agree. Now, that may not be true to all people. For many people, the religion itself is the end, if you will. And in itself, in the religion itself, is other different means to other ends within the religion, but they consider simply following the religion to be life's purpose. Torah mitzvot, right? Torah and commandments, to be life's purpose, not as a means to an end, but as an end in and of itself. This is why I was created, and there is something to that. There is something to that. Again, it's something that can be a tool, and for some people, it can also be the actual end goal. And in that end goal, in the religion itself, right, it speaks there of the after. Let's put it that way. Okay, Sanisa says every conversation exists in a state of superposition. Right, you've mentioned this before, between what was intended, spoken, heard, and understood. Sorry to repeat, but certain phrases are highly applicable. Yes, they are. Hey, I repeat myself tons of times. I recently updated it to spoken, which has an alternative meaning of built, as heard does gathered. Right, I understand. Well, by the Pope declaring all religions are a path to God, it officially expands the doctrine accordingly. All Catholics must accept it or leave. While it will likely cause some strife, it is a necessary strife for the truth. Well, again, I'm all for common ground because there will always be differences. But where do we have common ground? Let's start from there. And this will definitely bring Catholics into having more common ground, let's say, with other religions and quite possibly with other denominations and factions of Christianity. There was a time before money, will be a time after religion. Is the S sarcasm or religions? Gotcha, plural. Understood. Far, far more commonalities than differences. Yes, yes, yes. There are. I feel it very necessary to focus on the commonalities, not at every cost, but at least as a way to establish some kind of dialogue. And it has been beneficial for me. I've seen it played out over the years that I've been talking to people, especially online, and the common ground, it allows something to be built on it, and it allows something honest to come forth. Because when you both are standing on someplace stable, you can dip your toe here and reach your hand there without losing, right? It's I believe it's a good thing. Again, not at every possible time, but 99% of the time, I think it's important to establish some commonality and right, and to have some sort of connection. So I say goodbye. I'm at the end of this chat. Maybe I will say goodbye. It's been 47 minutes. Let's talk a bit about Rosh Hashanah, since I don't think I'm going to be broadcasting on Wednesday, because Wednesday is Rosh Hashanah Eve, the eve of the Day of Trumpets, Yom Teruah, 2-day holiday in the Torah. It's 1 day. And the right Chazal, our sages, made it into 2 days. And it's the only one celebrated and observed in Israel that is 2 days. Oh, hi, Rusty. Indeed, all is well. Indeed, indeed. So it's a day, right? It's 2 days. Now, traditionally, each day there are 100 sounds that we are commanded to hear come out of the horn, the ram's horn, the shofar. Those of you, I published a short earlier today of me practicing the shofar. I'm going to be blowing it. I've been blowing the shofar at times when I didn't have the shofar. I used to go to shul, right, to synagogue, to the temple, and hear it with my kids. But now I do it at home. The shofar, if I'm not mistaken, I've mentioned this before, is the only non-vegan religious artifact that I still, use regularly every month on the first of the month and on Rosh Hashanah, which is also the first of a month and the first of the year. And it's a day of judgment, and a day of coronation. And we don't deal with our sins. We don't deal with our sins. We don't seek forgiveness. That comes later. Right now, we focus on giving Adonai the crown. And there's a phrase, Ein melech belo am. There is no king without his people. And in order for there to be a kingdom, you need to have people in that kingdom. They need to be able to behold the king and to crown him. And we crown Adonai as the king of all creation year after year. And we listen to the sound of the horn to awaken us and stir HaTshuvah inside of us. And the horn was also used when kings would be anointed and coronated. And the shofar has many, the shofar reminds us of the binding of Isaac, and the shofar reminds us of the assembly at Sinai, and the shofar reminds us of the great shofar that will be sounded right towards the end and the beginning of something new. And the end of exile, the end of the diaspora, the coming together of the tribes, a united kingdom. The shofar has a lot. There's so much. Now, these days, they're called Yom Hadin, Day of Judgment. It's a day when we know that evil and evil forces in the world, right, the left hand, the klipot, they are allowed, in certain times, they are allowed to take what's theirs, right? You give the devil his due. The thing is that while the devil, let's say, is busy collecting his due over the next 2 days, over the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, Israel then come together and they sound the horn, and the evil forces in the world, let's say, they cannot stand the sound of it. It sort of throws them off. And exactly during the time when evil is given the chance to indict the people of Israel and all of creation, right? It's standing up in there in the court, it's ready to make its opening speech, and then the people of Israel, they get up, they sound the horn, they crown Adonai as king of all creation. And they speak of Malchuyot, Zichronot, and Shofarot, right? Which is the kingship and remembrance and the ram's horn, right? God is king, the king of kings, or the king of kings, Melech Malchei HaMelachim, untouchable, unknowable, unfathomable. And yet there's a divine revelation of kingship, of authority, of sacred authority. And the crown, right, which is a circle that has no beginning or end. And we are the ones, right, who are beginning the year and ending the year in crowning Adonai. Remembering the flood, remembering Abraham, remembering the beginning of creation. Zehayom tchilat ma'asecha, right? Rosh Hashanah is not the first day of creation. That was 4 days ago. It's the day that Adam was created. Rosh Hashanah is the day of creation of humanity, as it's written in the Bible, right? Like evolution aside and scientific theory aside, the way that Rosh Hashanah is referenced and carried out, and the significance of it has to do with humanity, with that image of God that came into being on Rosh Hashanah. And it's going to be 5,785 years. Now, again, obviously, the universe is billions of years old, and all that. And even those who say that it was only 5,785 years, but it was created old, right, as one theory says, or a school of thought, okay, I'm willing to accept that too, that works. The people of Israel come together and they don't make confession and they don't lament their sins. It's like, it's not about you. It's about something much bigger than you. It's about crowning Adonai as the king of all creation. And it is the people who crown the king. It is the people who give him the crown, who give him the authority. And it's kind of saying, for these 2 days, it's called on the one hand a day of judgment, because as they say, all the books are opened, right, it's God, the litigious judge, the meticulous ruler. Litigious judge, is that the right way to put it? Right? The divine revelation that remembers everything and sees all and writes everything down, and your book, my book, is opened up. Okay, how did we do this here? What happened here? What happened there? Am I sentenced to life? Am I sentenced to death? Am I sentenced to richness or poverty? Am I everything? We are judged on these days. Yom Hadin. There's right harsh judgment and soft judgment, if you will. And it's the only holiday that is twice, unlike in the diaspora where every holiday is twice, basically, right? The 3 festivals, Shavuot and Sukkot and Pesach. Rosh Hashanah, it's a day when it's not about you. It's about crowning the Most High God. And yes, you could obviously understand what it means for you on a personal level. You need to explore that. What does it mean for me to be crowning Adonai? What does it mean for me to be putting the Hebrew God, right, as the God of all creation, God of my ancestors? What does it mean to be under the authority of such a revelation, of kingship, of being a ruler, of being a judge, of checking everything? And yet again, it's not a day. Oh, wait. Oh, look at this. I'm not sure when this. Sorry, something just popped up on StreamYard. I didn't know that there is such a thing as a private chat. Cool. So wait, hold on a second. Okay. Jakey boy. Hi, Jakey boy. Yes. Wait, oh, whoops. Sorry, I'm still in Hebrew. Yes, yeah, ask away. I don't know if you can see it. It says private chat, but then it says here chat with everyone. I'm not understanding. I'm still new to StreamYard again, huh? Okay, let's see. Well, it didn't cut off my train of thought. I mean, I was kind of, well, I was just ranting about Rosh Hashanah. Ranting. Okay, let's continue here with the chat. Okay, so wow, a lot of chat. Okay, let's go. Let's continue. Why not? I was gonna say goodbye maybe, but no. Ella says, was God here before humans and language? If yes, then names, religion doesn't matter so much. Spirituality doesn't require religion. I agree. Spirituality does not require religion, but over the course of history and due to humanity being what it is and things manifesting and expressing themselves the way they did, it was sort of necessary temporarily to build that structure of organized religion. But I believe, as a Picasso, right, learn the rules like a professional so you can break them like an artist. Or was it follow the rules, or know the rules? Follow, for all intents and purposes here, follow the rules like a professional so you can break them like an artist. In the very same way, there is that innate spiritual connection between all creation and the creator. And it's us humans who need to make that effort. It's us humans who, in the course of history, because of different things, at least according to Torah, religion came into the picture. Now, there's a very famous quote by Haile Selassie, right, His Imperial Majesty, Rastafari, who says in one of his speeches to the people, and he says, "Oh, you know what? I'll give you the direct quote. Just give me a second." Here, I'm quoting His Imperial Majesty, who said, "Spirituality is not theology or ideology. It is a simple way of life, pure and original, as was given by the Most High. Spirituality is a network linking us to the Most High, the universe, and each other. As the essence of our existence, it embodies our culture, true identity, nationhood, and destiny." And he says that religion, as a man-made thing, can be corrupted. Religion is something that takes that spirituality and puts it in binds. Now, sometimes those binds are necessary, or sometimes they are for the better temporarily, but I believe that we are supposed to break out of it eventually. And people won't need religion. It will be as simple as, right, the Tao Te Ching, right? Lao Tzu says, who can take care of worries like a baby? We will be just like that, a baby. Yes, says some communities were saying alien intelligence would destroy Earth religions. Why would it do that? I'm curious. So wait, Sanir says to Alice, spirituality can be dangerous. Religion allows us to verify. It can be dangerous only in the sense of that people can be corrupted and they can corrupt the spirituality in which they are trying to engage. They can pollute, let's say, the channel that they are trying to open. And in doing so, sending something polluted up might send something down here that is not, you know what I'm saying? In that give and take in the spiritual realms, you have to be careful. We humans lose special purpose. I think that we can think that humans have special purpose and other beings also have special purpose. I don't know why that would negate that. AI will do that, Caesar says to yes. Voila. Greatest modern philosopher argues that only replacement for not continuous link to ethereal that separates us where greatest modern philosopher argues that only replacement for not continuous link to ethereal that separates us. I'm not sure, I don't understand. Can you dumb it down for me a little bit? Thank you. Ella says, I think one should know thyself. So know your ancestors and cultures. You will find your spiritual path through truth and awareness. I agree. I agree. And sometimes to know your ancestors and cultures, meaning do what they did, carry on with your culture. right? Be there together in that petri dish. Then you can break out. You will find your spiritual path. I'm inclined to agree, not only because I kind of did that. Hey, Jacob the Jew, which part of Sanhedrin 54b? Second of all, as I've said, my relationship with the Talmud is not the classic rabbinic Orthodox Jewish relationship with the Talmud. So you ask, how can I accept it? Have you asked if I accept it? I accept that it was written down. I accept that whatever it is, whatever debate, whatever sugya or opinion is being expressed there in Sanhedrin 54b, I'm definitely saying that there are things in the Talmud that are a product of their time and place. And as such, it's something that we would not be connecting with at all. So there are certain things that are vile, also in the Torah, because the Torah shows you the worst of the worst and the best of the best, and it's saying you need to choose life. It's better to choose life. It's better to be better than to be worse. But the Torah shows you both, and in the very same way, the Mishnah, the Talmud, Toshba, it deals with the good things and it deals with the bad things. Talmud has some bad stuff in it. I agree, it does. But that's simply the physical Talmud as it was written down here, the spiritual source, if you will, of Talmud, right? In the divine revelation, before it came down here, before it was written down, solidified and canonized. And again, I say this a lot because it's true. When that happened, oral Torah as we know it was never the same. And it wasn't the same thing before. Ideology is dangerous. I ask myself, am I an ideologue? In some ways, I think I am, but I try not to be damaged by it. I don't know how to put it. Not sure how to put it. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. I've never explored myself whether or not am I an ideologue? I don't know. I might be. I might be, but I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be a good ideologue. From animals is language and the information, says yes. All world civilizations eons ago hide in there, but who enabled us? From animals is language and the information. All world civilizations eons ago hide in there, but who enabled us? What do you mean, who enabled us? I'm sorry, I don't understand. I don't understand what you mean by who enabled us. Sorry. What's that? Oh, it's her. And what's this? Some rabbis practice oral circumcision. Oral circumcision? What do you mean by oral circumcision? There is the metzitza b'peh, but nowadays they do it with a straw, not with placing the mouth on the penis. Yes, or maybe some do, as I've mentioned before. I don't know. The ones, the covenants of circumcision that I've witnessed and have partaken in were all with a sterile straw. To speak in the first place says yes. After all, logic equals language is mathematic procedure, and nature laws obey to them. So what you're talking about? You're talking about creation as like a harmony of mathematical precision, like the architect said about the matrix. Speak in the first place. After all, logic is language. Yes, language is making sense, right, of and being able to convey it in a way that makes sense to others. So it's a mathematic procedure and nature laws obey to them. Well, okay, go on, keep going. That part I got. Explain this as a Jew myself, I find it repulsive. Yes, I can definitely agree that it can be that it's repulsive. I'm thinking that it does have meaning behind it, and right there's it's part of the mitzvah, right? It's part of the three facets, right? Milah, pri'ah, and metzitza. How are you high right now? Did you just toke on a bong? No, I haven't toked on a bong since my late teens, and I am not high right now. Holy moly, do I hit the Cheech and Chong? You know, I've never seen Cheech and Chong. I haven't seen one movie. What are they, short films, long full-length features? I don't know. Bloodnose says, a celestial year may be one revolution around Sagittarius A. Isn't that the black hole? Instead of what we know as a year around the sun. Well, I'll tell you, every 27 years, there is a special blessing recited, the blessing of the sun, Birkat HaChama. The idea behind, I think it's 27 years, every 27 years, and you say it once in the morning, and then you wait 27 more years. Birkat HaChama, traditionally speaking, if not actually physically, traditionally speaking, it's when the universe, or we, Earth, go back to the same position that we were in during creation, something like that. It's a real it's a revolution, right, of a different kind. Like you're saying that a celestial year may be one revolution around Sagittarius A. I'm saying that there is some sort of reference to that in Birkat HaChama, in the blessing of the sun. I think it's 27 years. Hang on a second. Birkat HaChama. A rare Jewish blessing, yes, every 28 years. I was close. Every 28 years. And I remember where I was. I've only done it once so far in my life. And I remember where I was. You know what? The next one should be coming up. When is the next Birkat HaChama? Oh, it's not coming up. April 8th, 2037. So, meaning that 28 years before that was 2009. 2009, I remember I think I was still working in Toys R Us. I worked in Toys R Us for 3 years. And I think on that morning I was working in Toys R Us and I got up early. I did the blessing of the sun. I remember where I was too. And then I went and I did my shift at the store. So the next one will be some time from now, 13 years from now. Okay. Yes, says, according to I'm assuming you wanted to write Wittgenstein. Oh, no, not Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein. The actual important feelings can't be formed through words, but rather through music. By the way, this exact sentiment is why people say that the hall of HaTshuvah, the hall of returning, the hall of atonement, is adjacent to the hall of music, of melody, of nigun. Because there is something in a nigun, in a melody, that can raise you higher than words ever could, because words are the constraint, words are the confinement of letters and sounds, as they are coming out of the 5 different places, right, from which we can utter. And a melody transcends that. That's also why the Levitical choir, they would also play instruments, and they knew, they say, our sages say that the Levites knew how to play a tune in such a way that it would specifically touch you, right, and stir that string at the essence of your atoms or subatomic particles, and it would stir you in a very specific way because melody is higher than words. And there's also another quick story. There's a story, a tale about a child who was in Yom Kippurim, right? The holiday of atonement, the most sacred day of the year, and he was in shul with his father. And he had recently learned how to play a small flute. And he wanted to blow it on Yom Kippurim, but he was not allowed. And he wanted to do it, right? And he wasn't allowed all morning, all throughout Shachrit, the morning prayer. But then at the additional prayer, hours into the service, he couldn't take it anymore, and he blew a note on his flute, a long note, right? And then his father shushed him and took away the flute, something like that. And the person who was then leading the service, he made his repetition, his Chazarat Hashatz, he made his prayer that is supposed to be for the whole congregation significantly smaller. He leaped like from one part of the service to the end. And then afterwards, after the service was over, And people came to him and, Rabbi, or, whoever, why did you, well, yes, Rabbi, he was the one leading the service on the Holiday of Atonement. Why did you shorten your prayer? And he said, because of that boy. In his single continuous note of the flute, he elevated everything that we were doing this entire morning to such a degree that I could skip ahead in the service. He already did, right? He already brought into existence. He already made the connections that I was supposed to be making with the words of prayer. He did it with that flute. Anyway, that's what that reminded me of. Beauty is almost as important as morality, says yes. Beauty is almost as important as morality. So, right, dealing with the concepts as such, I agree. And I think that one can lead you to the other. I think that if you give beauty a place in your life, it can lead you to morality. If you give morality a place in your life, it can lead you to beauty. I think. I might be just talking out of my ass. Adults can enjoy life beyond their biological needs. Animals at most can play like we at infant stage did. Yes, that's correct. We go way past it. Right? We can. Yes, definitely. Likely, said Sneezer T.S., the Hindu tend to believe the universe was sung into existence. That's nice. I like that. I describe Beauty as the complex beauty, as the complex description of simplicity. Beauty is the complex description of simplicity. It gets corrupted simply by misunderstanding. That's why it needs to be verified. This whole understanding, misunderstanding thing, on the one hand, it's very, it can seem very simple. On the other hand, I don't see any real fault or falsity in it. It's like, yes, if you truly made a connection and you truly understood something through and through, that would immediately change the way you felt about it before. So I'm inclined to think that the more understanding you have, true understanding, a real connection to something, you are able to find, again, more common ground. And as you find more common ground and more understanding, your hateful tendencies, your hateful speech, your hateful conduct, it lessens because now you see more people as being in your in-group, if only on some level. And on that level, in that level, the hate does not reach them. And love, perhaps, right? It opens the door for love to reach them instead. Rebuke, anyway, if not hate. Agree 100% with your explanation of Torah. Pedophilia, says Jacob the Jew. No, I disagree. Simply having a ritual of sucking out circumcision blood doesn't mean that these moyals, rabbis, or fathers are attracted to their 8-day-old male baby. I don't see that at all. I really don't see how you see pedophilia in that practice. I really don't. If the Talmud was actually pedophilic, then it would say that well, no, I'm not gonna make that argument. I don't see that as something pedophilic. Maybe you do. I'm not saying you're wrong, but in the context of the covenant of circumcision and the different sections of it, right, the different points of it, I don't see that as pedophilia in the least. I really don't. I think you should use a different word, right? Because pedophilia literally simply means attraction to children. It doesn't even mean doing anything. It means having an attraction to children, to prepubescent children, and then it's hebephilia. Jacob doesn't sound like much of a Jew, LOL, said Sneezer. I've never read it before. I'm not fluent in Talmud. No, nor am I. And I've said this before, even during my yeshiva days, Talmud was definitely a part of it, but not the major part of it. And even if it was major in the sense of hours put in, it wasn't what I was putting the emphasis on as a student, right, as a yeshiva guy. as a yeshiva bocher. So Nezer says to Jacob, so just by blood, I don't envy the journey ahead, but you will need to understand. You're just a Jew by blood, he asks. I see. A rough journey. Possibly, yeah. Possibly. I don't think you should envy anyone's journey because you don't know what they're going through. KJ said to Sneezer, you should maybe write a book. You have some good observations and sayings. I think he has written a book. Sneezer says to Jacob, my opinion, of course, is that you should just read the gospel since it's clearer rewriting. Indeed. KJB says, Sneezer says to KJB, I did, but I find Facebook a more appropriate medium, especially since AI get trained on it. Jonathan, you actually read a single 3-part message as 3 unrelated ones. Oh, okay. My bad. Sorry about that. There are detriments to being in the chat like this. Saturn has a revolution around the sun every 29.4 years. Yeah, and what about Saturn? What about Uranus? Tons. Do you practice astrology? Hebrew astrology? I don't practice, but it is part of it is part of the Hebrew teachings. Wasn't it part of your Hebrew faith? Yes, indeed, it is. It is, yes. Every month has its corresponding zodiac sign, but it's a month that is from the new moon to the waning, right, of the moon, and the rebirth. And each month has its own affiliation to a tribe, and then a certain name, right, a 4-letter name of God with different nikud, with different punctuation, which has to do with, right, well, and according to, if you want, right, Hebrew astrology is best laid out, the origin of it, let's say, is best laid out in Sefer Yetzirah. Sefer Yetzirah, which is a Kabbalistic book, very, very highly encrypted, but certain things there, if you just want like plain sight on what it is that the Hebrew astrology is, you can find there the different months, and corresponding to it are the organ and the zodiac sign and one of your senses. Jacob the Jew says, with regard to the case of one who was unwittingly sodomized by a male, and then unwittingly was one with whom an animal copulated within one lapse of awareness. Rabbi Abahu says that according... Wait, but so you started, but then you went to the Hebrew. Abaye אומר, אפילו דברי רבי ישמעאל נמי חייב 2, right? It's 2 different sense. דכתיב, כל שוכב עם בהמה מות יומת, אם אינו עניין לשוכב, תניעו לעניין לנשכב. כל שוכב לא נשכב, אוקיי? והפיקר רחמנא לנשכב בלשון שוכב, מה שוכב אנש והזהיר אף נשכב. תנו רבנן, זכור לא עשו בו קטן כגדול, בהמה עשו בה קטנה כגדולה. אוקיי, let's continue. מה לא עשו בו קטן כגדול? אמר רב, לא עשו ביד פחות מבין 9 שנים כבין 9 שנים. ושמואל אמר, לא עשו ביד פחות מבין 3 שנים. Oh, so you are talking about prepubescent children. Okay, gotcha, I understand. Okay, I understand your problem with this. Please take into account that the Talmud was written down about 2,000 years ago, or the 1,600 years ago or so, 1,700. Right, the Mishnah before that, and they're basing, right, Tanu Rabbanan is based on things in the Mishnah, primarily. And that, which was kind of, 1,900, 2,000 years ago. And the oral Torah was written down then, and it was supposed to continue, but it was written down, and something new, let's say, was born. The origins are ancient, and the origins are old. But what became of it, because it was written down, that's a bit of a problem. It's like a necessary evil, right? It's putting Judaism into survival mode, right? This strict, rabbinic, orthodox, Talmudic halachic view and conduct, because according to Masechet Brachot, right, from the destruction of the temple, all God has in this world are 4 cubits of halacha. That's exactly part of the reason why I don't follow the Talmud to the letter. I pick and choose. I pick and choose. And maybe, once again, it's risky, it's dangerous, it's to my detriment, perhaps, but I can't go with the Talmud the way it is. I can't. I won't. And one might say, what gall? Who put you in charge? How can you defy the sages? To which it's a great question. It comes down to one answer, which is also a question. Are they me? They are not me. And so I gotta do me. I do. And maybe, like I've said in the past, maybe I will eventually get back to keeping strict halacha. Maybe I will get back to learning Talmud regularly and living out the halacha as it's written down. And right, learning the Shas once again, al haseder, right, through and through, Mishnah and Talmud. I understand that you think Talmud has pedophilia in it. This is indeed actually sleeping with children. And so I'm inclined to say that due to the nature of the time, it was something which was, if not practiced, ruled upon halachically. Certain things we know even in the Torah, things like the wayward son, things like the wayward city, right? The Ir Nidachat. We know that the Talmud says these things never happened. They are written in the Torah. You need to study them, integrate them, understand what it's trying to teach you, but it didn't actually come to pass in reality in the physical world. And in the very same way, I could say, yes, they had to rule on these types of halachas because of the nature of the time. Doesn't necessarily mean that they encouraged attraction to prepubescent children or sexual relations with prepubescent children or sleeping with men or sleeping with animals. It's simply things that had to be ruled on, halacha that had to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, they had to contend with each other, the different sources, the different traditions, the different ways of thinking about halacha, and they had to come to an agreement on what halacha is now. I think that's why it's conducted in the way that it is. Though I can completely understand what you're saying, Jacob the Jew, I understand what you're saying. That's part of what turns me off to Talmud as such. And because of, well, different things. But I don't deny or I don't think for a moment that the spiritual root of Talmud is vile. I think that because it was written down, and I think because it was written down in those times, and I think because in the nature of the times, that's what they brought to the table. These sages were bringing things, right, arguments that also have obviously physical implications, and also a spiritual root. And so there's the physical, halachic, de facto, here's how you behave, part of the Talmud. This is halacha. You walk it, and it leads you to God, and it leads you to yourself. And then there's the spiritual aspect of it, which is a deeper, if you will, aspect of the Talmud, where the words that are written there bespeak something physical, but in the spiritual world, it speaks of the connection between the divine revelation, right, and the different sfirot, the different revelations, and how you can open up that channel, connect with them in a way that will bring divinity into this world, right? Unify the masculine and feminine divine presence. So I understand what you're saying. I hope you're not completely turned off to Talmud, because even though there are some things in it that I completely say, oh my God, did they really, really, really? But it also is a lot of good. There's a lot of good in the Talmud. There's a lot of wisdom in the Talmud. But definitely due to the fact that it was written down at the time when it was written under those circumstances, they thought it was all going to be forgotten. They thought that it was all going to be erased. The oral traditions would be eradicated. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they were into sleeping with kids. It means that that is the halacha that they were discussing, and they discussed it as such. And am I making excuses? I don't think so. I think I'm being pretty fair. But okay. Pity, says KJ. I got off Facebook, Twitter, etc., and don't want to go back to them. Hey, if it does you good, then good for you. Mamash. King David with a flute, not a coincidence at all. Ella, correct in Hebrew. Haha. Tanya kvate de Rav, right? Like Rav, zachar ben tesha shanim b'yom echad. Okay, so yes, once again, this is all Talmud disgusting. Look, you know what? I gave you my short rant on what I think that the Talmud is in this context. Tell me what you think. If you think that I'm just blindly defending Talmud, feel free to tell me that too. Think I gave, Okay, let's continue. But yes, I try. I don't get everything. Some things I sometimes get. God said, Elah, said, let there be light, and he separated the light from darkness. Jacob said to Sneezer, I'm starting to dislike Judaism if it pushes this stuff. Well, what do you mean by pushes? I'm curious. Jacob says 1% of the worst own the world. It's good to know your enemy. Well, that much is true. It is good to know your enemy. I'm becoming ashamed of my Jewish identity. No, I don't think you should be. Just because you find fault in the organized religion, oral Torah parts of the religion, doesn't mean you should throw the baby out with the bathwater. I didn't, and I think that if I would have, it would be understandable. But something about me, and I might be wrong, something about me said, no, don't throw the baby out with the water. So neither says to Jacob, the Jew, read the gospel. It was all to bring Jesus. Without any Jews, Jesus couldn't come, theoretically at least, said Sneezer. Yes, says to Jacob, those in control are worshipping not Lord, but like their grandfathers, Samech Mem, Samael, who is the one of the traditional adversaries and the demonic husband of Lilith. And Baal and Molech and Varion, I don't know Varion, other misunderstandings of God's revelation. HN, come to think of it, said Sneezer, I don't think I've ever met one I've envied journeys of. Nice catch. Yeah, I just know from my own experience that I don't know who in their right mind would envy my journey. Baal means Lord. Baal means owner. And indeed, in that way of lordship, and in a way of, yes. Elah said Sneezer, but when it demands, no, Sneezer says, Elah, when it demands child sacrifices, it is not. Why I specified misunderstandings of revelation. Hey, eat less. How you doing, man? Eat less what? Eat less what? You can't just drop that. Elah says, I'm talking the language. Baal means Lord. That's what the word means. At least in some contexts, yeah. I'm the artist formerly known as MC24. Oh, hey, hi there. What caused you to change what caused you to change it? Most gods do. Yes, indeed. That's, yes, it says, that's why it is followed by a pronounce, Baal Typhon, Baal Molech. Oh, I see. After all, he wanted to be called like God does. I understand. I hear you. It's Baal this and Baal that. But there is also just Baal. Pedophile ring, mate. See, again, I disagree. Hope all is blessed. Indeed, thank God, all things considered, very, very much blessed. Random song lyrics for today. If you want to be my lover, you got to get with my friends. God, what a time to be alive when the Spice Girls broke out. Babel Tower language mixed, says Ela, but you can cut past the babble by following energy, vibration, awareness. So are you saying that you can cut past language? I'm not sure what you mean. You can cut past the babble, past the misunderstanding of each other's languages, right? Through the language barrier, you can bypass it I see. You can bypass it with energy, vibration, and awareness. But what do you mean when energy, vibration, and awareness, right? Where does, right, when the rubber meets the road, what do you mean actually, where you say you can cut past it with those things? I'm curious. Jacob says, and one did that to my family. Oh boy, I wouldn't be here. It's disgusting. Things over time don't become wrong. It's wrong from the start. Not always. I disagree. Not always. Sanither says to Jacob, yes, sex with children and animals is, but some do it better to know than deny. So wait, this comment by Sanither was at 10:23. It's now 10:31. I hope, Jacob the Jew, that you heard what I said. Again, it's not in defense of Talmud. It's just also something to consider. Good has to start becoming somewhere. I agree. And sometimes, right, Hara mavchin et hatov, speaking of Sefer Yetzirah, good differentiates evil and evil differentiates good. And by knowing one, it helps you to know the other. This does not mean that you should go around doing evil things being an evil person. It means that you should acknowledge the fact that there is evil also inside of you and know that you are capable of evil things, evil thoughts, evil deeds, evil doings, and to be aware of it to such an extent that that the goodness inside of you will rise up to counteract that potential evil, and it will put those barriers and defenses, if you will, in place, so you'll never go too far. You'll never stray too far from the goodness. But it's a lifelong process. I did astrology for a while, says KJ. What kind? The regular Western astrology or Eastern astrology, Hebrew astrology? Which one? It bugged me, he said, because it's so sort of static, like art. It doesn't move. I mean, it does move, but it's cyclic in its nature, right? I especially didn't like it when I found a configuration in my birth chart that says I have a tendency. That I have a tendency, what? Is there more? A tendency to be a walking cliche. What? Fee and fiddlesticks, what poppycock? What do you mean, a walking cliche? That's literally what your birth chart said? Ella says every letter has a value and God spoke everything into being. Yes, it's a lot of math, isn't it? I'm rebuking the Talmud is going out the window. Well, again, I'm not a rabbi, I'm not a scholar, I'm not a Talmud Chacham, I'm not going to change your mind. It's not my place to change your mind. And it would be completely understandable if you want to never ever open the Talmud ever again. You can still learn halacha from books of halacha, which consolidate the halacha and extract it from the Talmud, right? Like the Rambam and like many other halachic, many other books, right? And Shulchan Aruch or Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Okay, well, I'm sorry, I already read that. KJB Sneezer says, I also made a bunch of YouTube videos, but through AI, since I don't reveal my likeness. A single orbit around Sagittarius A is 230 million years. Well, yeehaw! Is it indeed? I think Sagittarius A is where they photographed the ring, right, from the black hole. The radiation, what is it? Is it the Hawking radiation around it? Some sort of, right, the first photograph of a black hole. Oh well, tata for now, favorite you and friends. Have a good one, MC24, eat less. Okay, I think it's just over an hour and a half. I think we're going to say goodbye. God willing, in the next live stream, it will already be a new year. The holiday is Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday. It's 2 days, and then followed by Shabbos. And so 3 days without screens, 3 days without going to work, 3 days with time for family, 3 days, right, 2 of them of blowing the shofar, and then a Shabbos of rest. On Sunday, there will be the fast of Gedalia from sunrise to sundown. Maybe I will check in on Saturday night, but either way, maybe I'll do a short before. Maybe I'll keep you abreast of my shofar practice because I'm going to be at home blowing the shofar in the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. I want us all, Jewish or not, Hebrew or not, to have a wonderful new year, a blessed year. Oh my God. Oh my God. Peace and justice and love and righteousness and all positive energies and good vibrations. Truly. Okay, so I don't know what will be. I'm supposed to broadcast on Wednesday, but it's going to be the holiday already after sundown. So if I don't think I'm going to be very busy on Wednesday, welcoming the holiday, getting things prepared, I don't think I'll be broadcasting on Wednesday. Maybe I'll do a short tomorrow and the next day, or maybe I'll do something spontaneous. Who knows? Who knows? But for now, I will say goodbye. This has been so much fun. I appreciate those watching now, those watching later, every like, every sub, every view, every comment. No trolls today, but I appreciate you too. And I don't take it for granted. It's not just a given that I press go live and there are people here, and for an hour and a half we're discussing things, some of them lowly, some of them higher, all of it with good fun and spirit, and without, in a civil and polite dialogue and discussion, and it's wonderful, it's lovely. I'm blessed with this, right, with this YouTube channel. It's so much fun, and I deeply appreciate your time, your kind attention, your contributions, and your gems, your experience, your words. It's so much fun to be able to learn from you, to learn with you, alongside you. I hope you will have a good night, a good day. I'll see you when I see you. Until then, good night from Jerusalem.